Hey guys, welcome to Make You Remarkable, a brand new podcast brought to you by Oconee State Bank. I'm your host, JT Tomlin, and on this podcast, we're going to be talking all things leadership, entrepreneurship, and personal development. Our goal is to ignite purpose and inspire passion in our listeners by asking them the question, how will you make you remarkable? We'll be interviewing local legends, business owners, and leaders within our communities and asking them about their road to success. Like, what kind of steps did they take to get where they are now? What does it mean to be a leader? And how can I lead my team? As well as what kind of mark they've made and what kind of mark they hope to leave in the future. This is going to be an amazing podcast, and we cannot wait for you to listen to it. So make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and follow us on social media at Oconee State Bank for more information.
Today I have with me David Branch, and he is a local entrepreneur in the Oconee County area. How are you doing today?
Doing very well.
Good.
Thank you.
Well, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Oh, wow.
I know it's a hard question.
It is like, okay. Well, for Oconee County, I'm, born and raised here. I'm 8th generation in our community, so well-rooted, born on a farm, and that was kind of my family heritage. And then
Very Oconee County.
Very Oconee County. Yeah, and then graduated Oconee High School, and then shortly after I graduated, I started my business venture, and I started doing, renovations and things like that. Did it for several years, and then finally got married, and I have 3 kids, 2 girls and a little boy, ranging from 5 to 12, and so it's a busy time. I still have a little farm, so it's I farm for a hobby now, yeah, that's kind of the quick and short of me.
Yeah, that's cool. So you you grew up on a farm and started a company.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you started your company?
I was 18.
Wow.
Yeah, so I graduated 94, and then I had a little work I was always doing, like I was working for somebody full time, and he was a builder, but I was always doing side work. So I was cleaning gutters. Like I'd go to work with a lawnmower and a ladder in the back of my truck, and I'd learned how to wire houses from a friend in my church. And so when I'd get off work, I was landscaping for this guy. I'd go hang ceiling fans and build decks and clean gutters and things like that after I got off work, because I've always had that little entrepreneurial drive.
Yeah.
And then I worked for him for most of that summer. And then he went on vacation. He's like, hey, I'm going to be gone for about 2 weeks on family vacation. There's a couple things I need you to do here. But then, can you stay busy for 2 weeks? And that was the end of it.
Wow.
Working for him, because I was like, well,
I
can stay busy. Staying busy is not my problem.
Yeah.
And so by the time he came back, I'd already just picked up enough work to where I never went back for him again, and I've been on my own ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it was sort of going out on my own was very intentional, but starting the business wasn't. Like I was going to college, and I was kind of putting myself through school a little bit and trying to kind of pay my way. And so I was just like working. I just started working, and working for myself, like little odd jobs.
Yeah.
And what we're doing now never was a thought. I didn't start it because I was good at it or that I even knew what I was doing, because I really didn't know what I was doing on a lot of it. I knew how to work.
Like
sweat.
figuring it out as you go.
Figuring it out as I go, just kind of see an opportunity and take it, and then just kind of, fortunately, people trusted me to at least persevere, and finish what I said I was going to do. But there was no YouTube, and so I had to have a lot of people around me that kind of just walk me through.
Yeah,
I would. Anyway, so yeah.
Well, it's funny because you learn. Like, I've met so many different entrepreneurs who learn like shadowing underneath people or finding people to teach them. My generation, I grew up, like I tell people, my degree comes from YouTube University. I learned everything about photography, videography, graphic design from YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I still had my internships and apprenticeships, but YouTube was kind of like the place I went to. So it's really, I kind of wish I was more in your shoes, because you can learn more about the secrets of the trade from your perspective, and learning from other people who've been in the industry for longer. You learn kind of, okay, this is what I do. This is the way you're supposed to do it, but it doesn't work. And here's a better way to do it.
Your point's good. I mean, having somebody that could kind of mentor me, because I did have several people that I would call on and they're so gracious to, you know, I started doing fire and water repair. So I was 18, no idea. You know, I grew up on a farm, so the farm mentality that I kind of came with was you just kind of, you know, make it work, rig it up, prop it up. And so I could do that. Like I was good at like making it get by, but to actually really fix stuff, like I could fix your dishwasher and like things like this. But I'd started building a few decks and things, and the guy that I'd worked for, you know, that summer, that he, you know, I was helping him build a few decks. So I really, honest to goodness, when I started, I didn't even know which end of a hammer to hold, really. Like I couldn't build, I could just rig it up. And I started telling people, hey, I can build decks for you. But I didn't know how to build a deck. So I'd go back to him and say, hey, I got these people that want to let me build their deck. Like, I'm not sure really how to get started. And he would just kind of talk me through it, you know. And this is back in the pager day. So I get a pager or somebody call me, and I was so excited. Somebody like paged me. You're like, wow, you know, that's pretty cool. And so they paged me, and I'd go to the payphone and call them back, and I'd like, well, I got an opportunity, you know. But I started seeing that my work was seasonal. Like it was, you know, you'd be busy and then you wouldn't. And a friend of mine introduced me to the fire and water restoration world. Like, hey, fire's always burning, pipes are always busting, the wind's always blowing. And I was like, man, because kind of a backstory, I don't give much of it, but, you know, the family farm, it was tough. My dad, you know, lost the farm. It had been generations in the family for generations. And so I have and I still carry with me, and I fight this little demon, a scarcity poverty mindset. Now, we weren't poor. It's not like poor, like dirt poor, but you know, it was, finances were a struggle. And so I have a scarcity mindset. And so I was always afraid, like, oh my gosh, you know, maybe this is it. Maybe this is where, you know, maybe I'm not having any more work. So it made me hustle a lot. And when I heard the idea about this fire and water restoration, I was like, okay. So I made a bunch of business cards, and this was, you know, there was no cell phones yet. I mean, I had a bag phone, like a little truck phone, you know. I had one of those with an antenna flopping on the back. I had that. But, you know, there wasn't email, none of this stuff. And so it was just knock on the door. So I made a bunch of business cards, and I started down in Eatonton, which is about an hour south, you know, and then I'd go all the way to Elberton, which is roughly an hour north. And I hit every insurance company between Eatonton and Elberton, knocking on the door, saying, here I am, here's what I do, give me a shot.
Wow.
Nothing. Nobody was going to give me a shot. Because, I was 18. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of like telling them I did, you know, hoping for the opportunity. And so.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. Man, I 100% believe in that, man. Just believe in your ability to figure it out. And then I finally got my first shot, and there's a long story behind that, but it was such a blessing. I'd been doing some side work for a guy here locally, just fixing stuff around his house. And he was an insurance adjuster. And so after a storm came through, and he called and was like, hey, I've got a little project. Why don't you go take a look at it? Well, backing up just a little bit, there had just been a storm came through. Well, I was riding around with me in my old stock trailer that my dad had when he was farming, you know, cow trailer, and I'd pick up limbs and load it in there. And that I knocked on the house because I saw a little tree leaning against the house. And they're like, hey, I knocked on the door and said, hey, can I cut the tree off and fix your house? And they're like, no, the insurance company's going to send somebody out. It's like, okay, well, here's my card. Well, when this guy that had called me, he's like, hey, can you come by my office? I want you to pick up some film. So it's back in the old Polaroid days. So I go back and get some Polaroid film. He said, I need you to go out here to this house and take some pictures of it for me and give me an estimate on fixing it. I went to the house, knocked on the door. It was the house that I had. That happened twice in the same day. 2 houses that I had previously gone to. They're like, no, insurance company's going to send somebody out. That adjuster sent me out. That gave me 2 references. He wrote me a big reference list. It's like, hey, man, this guy did a great job. And that gave me like creds. Yeah. So now I went back to every state farm and farm bureau adjuster that had just basically told me no. It's like, hey, I really can. Like, this guy shows you I did 2 jobs for him. And that just kind of snowballed it from there. Wow.
So what was the reaction on the people's faces when you showed back up to their house?
Super surprised because I'm 18 years old, and I was a kid. I really didn't know anything at all, and I didn't know how to fix it. I had no clue. But I was looking at it, and I was like, well, no, I'm a college boy. You know,
I just move it this way.
Well, I was like, so I knew how to cut the tree. I could run a chainsaw, and I could move the tree. And there was a chain link fence, and then you had to fix a fence. Farm boy skills, right? Yeah. But it had hit the house, and I had never put on a shingle or fixed a piece of plywood in my life. And I was like, oh boy, what am I going to do now? So I was like, I've seen these roofers around, you know, some of them kind of rough around the edges. If they can do it, surely I can figure it out. So I had to wait for those people to go to work before I could start working on it. And I got the shingle pack, and I flipped it over on the back and I saw some instructions. And I started doing it. And I hope they don't ever hear about this, but like they had some crown molding going up the eave, the gable of their house. And I couldn't figure out how to cut that trim for nothing in the world. So I became really good at like taking putty and making it look like wood. And I patched that, and I was like, Lord, I hope those people, I don't want to fall out. But anyway, so I just kind of made it work. And I did not intend on that being the business I went into.
Yeah.
I thought landscape architecture, something outside, working with dirt. But I wound up doing this fire and water restoration business, and it grew and it grew. And, you know, I went from $40,000 my first year in sales to about $1 million my third year in sales.
Wow.
Yeah. So growing the business was not a problem for me. I learned how to sell. And that went on for years and years till I finally outgrew my roots. And that's when things kind of tumbled in on me. We had gotten really big really fast, but I didn't know anything about leadership. I was not a leader in any form or fashion. I don't even know if I'd ever heard the word. It wasn't like people in my circle didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, and you have this perception of being a boss. You've heard all those words, like how do you boss people? And so I was a disaster. So I had a scarcity mindset. So I was always fearful about the money. And then I was hiring people that were older than me because all the carpenters and, you know, they're all, 10, 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
Some of them even more than that. So I'm 18, 19 years old, however old at this point, trying to boss people that have been doing it since before I was born. Scared of the money. And so I didn't know how to really price jobs because I didn't know what I was doing yet. Yeah. So every day was just so, like one side I was very confident I could figure it out. The other side I was scared to death.
Yeah.
That this was going to be it because I saw my dad lose the farm. I was like, oh my gosh, this is I'm going out, I'm losing it. Oh my gosh, And so the first 15 years of my career was full of
panic.
Well, it was optimism on one side. I know I can figure this out because I see people that are figuring it out and it's working where I'm still here. Like I hadn't gone out. But on the other side, every single day was crippled with financial failure. I just knew this was the end and I didn't know how to, and drama. Oh my gosh, the drama inside my team. And it wasn't a team. It was a bunch of people that knew how to fix things coming together. But you can think, back the clock up. I mean, I'm in this is 29 years. So back the clock up, back then, around here, everybody that was working, they had grown up in the business, and the old stereotypical painter, framer, you can just kind of picture it. That's who I had. And so alcoholics and drug addicts, that's who I employed.
Yeah.
But that was all that was available.
But they're like the masters of their trades.
The masters, they were great at what they did.
It's not, that part of it is just kind of, it comes with the trade, I guess.
It did. And worse than that was the drama. The drama that they brought with it every day, and me not knowing how to lead, I just threw fuel on it.
So how did you begin to lead? What started to teach you the elements of leadership you needed?
Yeah. Enough pain, right? So I guess it was 2009 was our biggest year in sales ever. I'd built up a big team. We had, we had about 18 trucks on the road. So we were just all over, just like rats running around this town. And we were doing a ton of work, a lot of people. Well, for me, I had a lot of people. I had 25 salaried employees and about 25 laborers. So every day there was about 50 people running around representing me. And we were growing and growing and growing because financial fears made me grow. I was like, okay, you got to bring in more money, And that was my solution. Sell more, do more volume. And so 2009 was our biggest year. Following that, the first part of let me give you something else. In 2009, it was going really good. But I knew I had pain points. And my wife and I had been watching on Fox Business. Dave Ramsey used to be on there. And he was always talking about, financial peace and the how to handle your finances for your family. And I told my wife, I was like, I wish that there was like a somebody that taught this for businesses.
Yeah.
And sitting there that night, he's like, hey, you know, coming to Atlanta one day, EntreLeadership, whatever, you know, come to it. And so I bought the tickets and went to the EntreLeadership one day for Dave Ramsey. And I had a couple free, one of my leaders came with me, and I took a couple friends, and I sat there and I listened to things that I had never heard before in my life. He was talking about leading and being generous and loving people and how to handle your money. And I was like, you know, what is this? And so, you know,
Like I don't have to live paycheck to paycheck
Yeah.
and figure out like
Yeah.
how to organize all this.
Oh my stars, man. And he was just casting this vision of something I had never heard of. So different from my local upbringing of how you run a business. Because, you know, my friends, you know, I had some friends in business and obviously older people around town. And you're like, hey, how you doing? Like, oh, it's rough. And, you know, if you got employees, but you got drama, it's, worst part of my day is, you know, my team. And everybody talks about employee drama, and it's just like this big burden.
Yeah.
I was like, man, it didn't feel right because, yeah, it was kind of a burden. It was a big, huge burden, kind of nothing. It was a huge burden. But it was also where my opportunity lied, because without them, I was going to have to do it all myself, and I didn't want to do that. You know, I'd already told you I didn't know what I was doing. You know,
Like there's
I had
got to
putty
be a
it,
way
right?
to fix that.
So I was like, there's got to be a way. There's got to be
Yeah.
a better way. And he was painting this picture of a better life, and which was the first time I'd actually as short-sighted as this sounds and as small-minded, I mean, it's really the first time I'd ever heard anybody talking about vision. Like, you know, I just kind of bounced my way through school. I was not a good student, didn't care to be in school. I loved school because of my friends and activities.
Yeah.
But I am not a classroom guy, right?
I feel
And,
that.
oh, man, yeah, it's not for me. And so I didn't read. And I remember him saying in that thing, he's like, the average millionaire reads one nonfiction book a month. I was like, well, I'm on it, man. You know, that's me. You know, that's my ticket right there. Because that was my ticket out of scarcity and that, you know, that poverty mindset I had.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he baited it, threw it out there and said, hey, we have a 5-day EntreLeadership. This is the one day leading into the sale over in Cancun. And I said, well, heck yeah. You know, we can write this off and go. So my
Is it in
wife and I-
Cancun?
It was in Cancun. So
Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
EntreLeadership over in Cancun. And I took myself, my wife, my number one guy and his wife. We went to Cancun for 5 days to listen to Dave talk. And that changed my entire life forever. That was the first. I have there's other pivotal moments in my world, obviously.
Yeah.
But as far as like what shifted my mind in leadership, that was it. Because of the way they treated us and loved us. When I got there, they knew my name.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big.
Oh, it's huge. There's
yeah.
about 125
Talk
people.
about remarkable
plus spouses.
experiences. That's
It
incredible.
was the absolute best service I'd ever seen. So got there, they all knew my name. They had already run like disc assessments on everybody. They'd already studied you. So they knew your picture. You had to send in a picture. They knew you. But the team knew me. Dave knew me. We sat there that night and we had dinner. Got to sit with Dave and his wife and have dinner. Me and my wife were there and kind of got to know him a little bit like that. But then I was telling them all my financial struggles. I was like, here's where we're at. And they're like, well, Matt, which was their CFO, he's like, he's flying in tomorrow. Let's schedule some time for you to sit down with him. They gave me 2 hours of his day. No more. I didn't pay another dime for none of this. They gave us 2 hours. And he sat there and he ripped through my books. He's like, get your lady or whatever to send me your finances, and we're going to go through it. And he studied my books. Actually, on the flight over, he started looking through all of our stuff. And when he got there, we spent 2 hours with him, and he just started just peeling back the onion and showing me my problems and helped me fix them. And that team brought me in when all the other family or the other couples would go back to the rooms after dinner. I would go with he and Dave and his team invited me and my wife. And we would go each night and sit down with them after, just kind of hang out in the lobby or whatever else. And they just poured life into us.
Wow.
And that was the pivotal moment because my employees, there's no way in the world I would let you sit down with any of them. Because they were so rough around the edges. I wouldn't let you, I would be scared of what they would say to you. And he was bringing his employees and let me sit down with them.
Yeah.
And that was such a mindset, such a perspective shift because his team loved me and cared for me and was trying to give me a good example, to where mine were on drugs and doped up and drama.
Yours were like pulling you the other direction.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
like, whoa, this isn't what I'm trying to do here.
Such a different world. And it gave me a vision of something to live towards. So anyway, yeah, that was the biggest.
Well, it's powerful. I mean, that mark that Dave Ramsey left on you empowered you to go make your mark on your team, which in turn makes a mark on the community. That's the whole thing that we're talking about at Make You Remarkable, is it's really focusing on how can we make our mark within our community that encourages other people to make their mark to further the community more.
Yeah. And
it's really, I mean, it's a really powerful thing to hear what you're talking about, how the simple thing of just knowing someone's name can really make an incredible mark on someone to where they're like, oh, I didn't know that was so important. The reality is a name sounds like it's such a small thing, but it holds so much power. Like I forgot, I don't remember where it was. I remember walking in the room and someone calling my name and I was like, oh, who's calling my name? I looked over and it's like one of the staff members at a restaurant. I was like, oh my gosh, how do they remember me? Like I came by, I'd been there like once or twice and they knew my name and they greeted me as if I was a friend, and it changes your experience from, I mean, I was a friend. It was the difference of, all right, you're not just a customer anymore. You're a friend who I want to encourage and help further. I mean, with a bank, it's like furthering your life. How can I further your finances? How can I help you and your family kind of? I kind of want to talk more about what kind of mark did you see Dave Ramsey leave on you? Like if you have to kind of summarize it,
Yeah.
What were the biggest takeaways you had?
So he gave me a vision of something that could be. He taught me that there are like good people out here that you can have on your team. So he gave me hope right there. And he's like, if you love them, treat them fairly. You can create like more of a team and not just a boss mindset. And then it was the whole concept behind the name is entrepreneur mixed with a leader, leadership, leader, the whole concept of leadership. And so the mark he made on me was really around like you say, he knew my name. They took time to invest in my experience with them. And I had paid him for business coaching. Basically, I came to this seminar. I was like, hey, he's going to give me some tips and I'm going to go home and be rich.
We get a goodie bag and
oh gosh, but that moment, it started changing things in my marriage.
Wow.
Because it's like leadership, like we're loving things. And so we're loving people. And the mark that he made for me was, really about.
It wasn't just about business.
No. The money is a result of serving. And it's the applause, it's the pats on the back for a job well done. It's the certificates of appreciation. The money comes from serving, not extracting. Not take, because I've been in the taking mindset. Remember, I want to get more, sell more and more and more. And it was never about serving the customer or serving my people. It was about, you got something to do. I want to charge as much as I can and still get the job. So I can,
Serving's a secondhand.
Oh my gosh.
As a result.
Yeah, serving was not part of my vocabulary at all.
Yeah.
It was, they have work, I have the skill set, and I have the people. They're going to give me money. We're going to move on to the next one. And there was no service. It was taking. And he's like, no, man, you got to give. You got to give. And you got to serve. Yeah, and I started hearing things about like adding value. I didn't really understand what that meant.
Like, wait,
What do you mean?
I thought
value?
I was supposed to get the value, like the money. Like what?
And so but anyway, that was just my first true interaction with somebody that changed my perspective of give, serve, pour into them, and then you'll have more than you ever.
Yeah, and it's powerful because that's what attracts people to your company. Is the remarkable experience that you provide makes people want you over someone else or over someone else in your same industry, because you know how to provide a service where they feel valued and they feel cared for, instead of just feeling like a customer that's providing money.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, and now that mindset shift has changed everything. it took a while. Like Dave taught me these things, but I don't mean I like adopted them very well because I didn't know how to adopt them. I adopted his principles, tried to force him as an immature leader. So I was like, oh, if I do what he does, it'll all work. That is nowhere near true. It's got to be from within. Because if not, it's just it's just sort of fake. It's just me trying to kind of fake it till I make it again. It's like, okay, if I do the things he says do, I'll get.
It's like you're putting on that mask of leader instead of entrepreneur, instead of farmer. It's, now I'm a leader today and I'm going to try and figure it out. But still, you're still that same guy who's trying to figure everything out.
Yeah, and I didn't know how to handle it. So anyway, yeah.
My dad always would say that, like, because I started a company when I was 16. It's a similar experience where I was just trying to fake it and fake it and fake it. My dad would always tell me, like, you got to know that, like, you are capable to be here. You're like, you have the value you need. Like, you're not pretending. So that mindset of all business owners are kind of these scared little boys behind this curtain, afraid that someone's going to peel back the curtain and show off that they don't know what they're actually doing. But the reality is you're not just, it's not like the Wizard of Oz. You're not just stuck behind the curtain. There, to an extent, there's always that feeling that you're there, but if you kind of live in that dark corner protected by some curtain, you're not actually growing. Yeah. So once you kind of really value and start to take to heart those kind of values of leadership and growing your team and really investing, it really starts to change the feeling of like being alone and being kind of not enough to, oh, wow, I really am. I've got my team who's behind me. They're going to support me. I have value that I can give my customer, but also I care for my customer. You kind of bring everyone into that environment and you're not just kind of like hiding. It's really interesting.
Oh, it is. And it's shifted everything for me because I started hating my company, hating everything about it. I wanted out of it, looked to sell it. I thought about just closing the doors because it had gotten so stressful. And then I was trying to apply these principles that I had learned, but I wasn't a mature leader yet.
Yeah.
And I needed mentorship on how to become a leader, not just bullet points on do these things. Mm-hmm. And then that started this whole different journey of this transformation that has taken so many years. And I am just now, like I'm 29 years into this. That was back in 2010 when I met, 2009 when I met Dave. This is what year are we? 23, right?
Yeah.
So 14 years. And I have just recently, very recently, like within the last year, completely shifted my perspective on business. Like I started shifting it some, but I was hating it. I had gone from this just getting tired of fighting the same thing over and over again. And now I've got such a renewed vision, peace around it, and joy that, yeah.
You have financial peace.
I do, but it's so beyond the financial piece.
Yeah.
It's like the work we do, because I've always, we do, the majority of what we do is, asbestos and mold removal. All right, it's like, what is that? It's nasty stuff. You see the guys with the hazmat suits, that's us, and you see, demolition and all, that's us.
Yeah.
That's the majority of what we do. And when you think about that kind of guy, you don't really equate that to like a company of great culture. Mm-hmm. You're thinking, that's tough, very hard, laborious, blue collar work.
Yeah.
And, we can get into that in the next half, but because that really does kind of shift.
Yeah. It's like, how do I make such a mundane task seem like a very remarkable experience? Or not mundane task.
No, it is. It's suck work, man. Well, just think about it. Put on a hazmat suit, respirator, gloves, and get in a crawl space with creepy crawly things, nasty, moldy. And you know what? Tomorrow, you know what you're going to do? Same thing. Another house, same thing. Or you're going to have on a suit, you're going to be in some hot steam pit or in some attic or some boiler room. What you going to do tomorrow? I don't know. Where we're going to be? I don't know. But you're going to be dressed up in some hot suit. It's going to be suck work.
Sounds like a lot of suck work.
Yeah. You better have a good culture or you're going to have a bunch of junk. Mm-hmm. So,
you said that you felt trapped by your business instead of owning it. So what did that mean to you? Like, how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I felt like I had built this business, you know. Like I said, when I back up, I didn't start with the idea of building a business. I started with the idea of I just wasn't working for that guy anymore. You know, and it just started snowballing. More required more, required more, required more. And I didn't know how to lead. I didn't know how to run a business. I just knew how to work. That's all I knew how to do. I knew how to sell and knew how to work. That was it. The more I sold, the more equipment and people I had to hire. Well, then you'd have these slow times that came. Well, fear. Remember that fear of like, oh my gosh, this is the end.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of backfill those slow times with more revenue. And it became this beast. And it's like I was just feeding the animal. And the business was growing. And it really, I don't even want to call it a business. We were doing a lot of work. I had a bunch of people together and we were working. And we were just trying to kind of outrun the debt, outrun the bills. And it was consuming me. Like I remember praying one night. I was like, Lord, just take this thing away. I don't care what happens. Just burn it down. This thing is consuming my life. And I don't know how to get out of it. Like I had pride. I didn't want to quit, but I hated it. And debt was building and I was always chasing money. And I was becoming somebody that I really wasn't. Like I used to be kind of a nice guy, you know, and I was just like, I was so on edge all the time because of the fear. And I don't want to back up too much, but 2 weeks later, the building I was renting was on fire. Like I got a call from the fire department, say, hey man, your building's burning. And sure as world, I looked out my window from Bishop, which is like 6 miles away from Watkinsville, and I could see the glow in the sky. Oh. It was the first time the Oconee County got to use their ladder truck. And they burned that building to the ground, and I watched it, and as it was burning, I didn't own the building. I was like, you know, I would rather that had been my house burning, which I owned, than the building that I rented, because that was everything to me. Like, oh my gosh, it's my livelihood, what I'm going to do. And as I saw that sucker burn to the ground, it was sort of a little bit of a cleansing for me. Like, okay, you know, it's kind of going away, like burning all that junk out.
God kind of answered that prayer.
He did in a like we really burned it.
God, I didn't
what you
mean
pray
that.
for. I mean, like,
I didn't mean that.
I don't know, you know. And so anyway, but that was a big moment. But that's what I meant by this beast. It was just controlling me. And then I started to apply the principles I had learned from Dave financially. And financially, we started fixing things. My culture was still jacked up. But financially, you know, we quit borrowing money. You know, I know it's an anti-bank talk right there, but we're like, no more debt. And I remember, although, you know, we were doing a lot of insurance work, and one of the companies that we were dealing with, they had 66% of our business. That's where we got it from them. And they changed management and leadership. And I had been doing, you know, we were the largest contractor in the state for that one insurance company. And we were doing a ton of work. And within 30 days, our work went from just pouring in to gone. 66% of my business gone. And we couldn't do anything about it. It was a fault of mine because I had too many eggs in my basket in a sense. But it was just a leadership change. And they were like, we're not doing any more local referrals. Got to go through this contractor, you know, referral program. And I was like, oh, I'm not doing that, you know. And next thing you know, my rug was just ripped out from under me. Yeah. And so now my scarcity thing's all freaked out. But I kept trying to work, you know, and I was like, well, I owed it to my team. Like I hired them. I promised them a job, so I've got to provide, you know. And then 4 or 5 months later, I walked in one morning, and there's a lady sitting at my desk. And she stood up, and she flashed her badge, and she said, I'm agent number whatever with the Treasury Department. Have a seat. I said, oh, crap. Oh, boy. Okay.
Oh, my gosh.
She's like, yeah, I've been coming around leaving my card for the last couple of weeks. I was like, well, she said, did you not get it? I said, well, I saw your card, but it didn't say call me. I just saw your card. And she's like, you know you're supposed to call me. I said, well, here we are.
This is the only thing I could think of.
And she's like, you owe us $100,000 in payroll taxes.
Oh, my gosh.
And we're cutting you off today. We came here to collect money. And this is back in the old days, and I was banking with Oconee, And I called my loan guy. I was like, hey, man, y'all owned it. Oconee had every title and everything I ever owned anyway. And I was like, I need $103,000 like right now. And he took some land and remortgaged it and paid off the IRS. And that day I typed this little sign up and I said, well, this decision make me debt free. And I became on this new mindset of, how do I become debt free? How do I never owe anybody ever again? And that shifted the whole mindset on how we ran money and finances. And praise be to God, 4.5 years later, we were completely out of debt, had a stash of cash, and things changed.
Wow.
Then I had to start working on the culture because it was still consuming me. Finances were getting better, but everything else was still just
You're like, I fixed the foundation, but I still got a pretty crappy house right now.
Yeah. And so we had to get buy-in. There's a lot obviously behind all getting everybody to buy in to help me get out of debt. So we started an open book management, which is basically I was like, guys, we're broke, and here's the numbers to prove it. And I need your help getting out of debt. And we're going to work on this as a team now. We have a goal, and here's the thing: we're going to start sharing it with you. As we make a profit, a certain percentage is going to go into the pool, and we're going to split it up. And y'all, that's for y'all, because I can't get out of here on my own. And I'd read the book, Good to Great, and the basic concept, it's either good or great, and good's the enemy of great. And at some point along the way, I kind of interpreted, if you wouldn't hire them again, you got to fire them. Well, I'm a take action guy, so I was like, everybody average and below is out the door.
Wow.
And I started just rolling heads, man. It was within 2 weeks, I fired 12 people.
Wow.
And then a few weeks later, I fired a few more. And got down to a manageable group of people that were winners, and we started climbing the mountain, man.
What did that do for your team? How did the people that were staying?
Scared some of them because you didn't know like what was next. But I just started decide, okay, it's time. You're out because I could see what was draining. Like I was like, if they were not performing, I was like, okay, they're draining, and I didn't want to fire them. Yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, But I started seeing everything because urgency. I am powered by urgency. And so the clock's ticking. I've got money I owe, and I've got to make some quick decisions. And that was good for me. Now, I hate that I had to fire these people. Fact about it is, they should have been gone a long time ago. I probably never should have hired them. But I had to do this big cleanse inside my culture because it was so toxic, ridiculously toxic. And we just started having to let people go. And we took I trimmed down from 25 full time to 8.
Wow.
And we started making money finally. And I was like, okay. And we started churning this thing, getting better people in there and churning it. And we started climbing out of it, but it was still chains to me. I hated it because now I was fighting this thing. Anyway, fast forward, up to a year or so ago, I was looking to sell it. I had people, approach me, hey, would you sell it? You always get those questions. I was like, yeah. So I did a valuation on it, and the valuation came back. I was like, well, that's chump change. Now, it's not that it's not a lot of money. It's just for the years I've got invested in the business, it's chump change.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not selling that by the time you pay your taxes. You ain't got
have a value in your head, and you're like
that
you
ain't
don't
it.
have a number, but you're like, it's definitely not that.
That's not it. And so, but the reason I wanted to sell it because I was trying to get out of my pain. The pain of I had a good team, okay, good team, good people. Well, actually, great people. So I was of the mindset that I needed all these A players. I had 8 people leave me within 3 years, my leaders, to go start their own businesses.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, well, that's good because we're training leaders. Now, none of them are my competition. We're all good friends. But what I realized was these A players are a little bit like me. They're antsy. They're looking for opportunity. So they wanted to leave. And so I hate to call people A players and B players. That's kind of putting people in bad categories. But there are some people that are just driven to swing for the fence. They're the guy that you're playing ball, and he's always wanting to hit the home run. He's not really worried about the team. He's wanting to score. And I had a good bit of those people in there. And we were killing it. But we weren't really killing it as a team.
Right.
I had a bunch of fence swingers. And that's really good sometimes. But those people want to go do their own thing. And they have an entrepreneurial itch. And I'm happy for them because, like, man, these guys had never owned their own business, and now since we started an open book management, meaning they get to see the finances of the entire company, income, overhead, cost of goods, all this stuff. So they learned how to run a business. Because I was trying to back away. I'd read a book called Built to Sell. I was like, well, what's in the book, the book's a good book, but all I need is the title. Build it to sell it. I'm getting out of this thing. So I had all these people in here that were fence swingers, and I say that, they're trying to like knock it out of the park, right?
Yeah.
And they started leaving, starting their own business. And I was like, okay, although that's good for them, and maybe I've led them to a point where they're feeling confident enough to do this, I don't have a team. My team's, I'm now I've got all this turnover. And so that's not healthy for a culture either. So I was like, well, who do I really need? And what I found out, and I hate to say it like this, I had to hire people different from me.
Yeah.
I had to hire personalities that were consistent. They talk about the tortoise and the hare. I'm a hare, right? And tortoises, by nature, drive me out of my mind, because I'm like, we got to go. I'm powered by urgency, right? So, but what I realized was people that, and I don't want to say tortoises, it's kind of just put them in a box too. But what I'm saying is people that just, they think and they process before they act. I act and then I think. Mm-hmm. And so what I found was if I want to build a good, solid, consistent team, I need people that are solid and consistent, reliable, that show up every day, that are not swinging for the fence, but they are wanting to play together as a team. And so we started hiring for culture to where I used to hire for skill. Mm. And as I started hiring for culture, people that aligned with my beliefs and who I think we should be, the brand, everything started changing.
Wow.
Because...
And hire to your weaknesses.
Well, hire to the weaknesses. So there's a book called You Are the Brand. Mm. Mike Kim wrote that book. And that's another book. I don't even have to read it. The title is all I needed, really. You Are the Brand. And it's like this remarkable term that y'all use.
Yeah.
Spending a lot of time with Neil, and he's talked about remarkable. And I see Oconee State Bank all over town. Remarkable. Create remarkable, And I'm like, you got to get your mind around what that really means, and how do you do it? As a bank, how do you do that? Like, well, I walk in and everybody knows your name. Kind of what you're talking about a while ago. You people know you in a small community. You can do that. Well, do we do that? Mm. Are we trying to create remarkable? No, we were still working. We were working, and I was trying to work on my culture. Mm-hmm. But we were wanting to serve a little bit. But when I started thinking about this term remarkable, and You Are the Brand, and all these different terms, I took on a different meaning, or I took on a different relationship with my business. Mm. For my business is about me making money, and it obviously still is for all of us. When I started shifting my perspective to like, how do we create this remarkable experience? You got Chick-fil-A and Oconee State, and you got different ones trying to create this remarkable experience. Yeah, but we're in your crawl space, clean your mold. We're moving asbestos stuff. We're tearing down buildings. We're in a rough physical work industry. Mm-hmm. If you picture, think about.
How do you make that remarkable?
You think about in a bank setting where everybody's all, clean and it's polished, and man, it's different. Yeah. It's on my side of town, because the work we're doing, okay? Mm-hmm. And they're not always the most educated that sign up to do work that we do. Mm-hmm. If you got an option, it's probably not going to be a crawl space.
Exactly.
So we're having to. I don't say we're having to. We have the opportunity now, because it used to be like, well, I have no choice. Now it's like, oh no, we got a choice, and we're going to choose to serve, not just our community, but we're going to serve the team. So I started turning how can I make working here a remarkable experience? What does that mean for them? How do I get them excited about coming into work to do the work we do?
What does remarkable mean to them?
What is it?
I view remarkable my way. But what does it mean for them to like? Is my view of remarkable the same view as they're getting? Like, are they going to see what I do as remarkable?
Man, you know it. And you got to dive into them. You got to know them.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get to know your people. You know, we do personality. We all these personality tests and everything, trying to help figure out who they are. And one of the things that's exciting is helping reveal to people who they are.
Yeah.
Because so many times we just don't know. You know, my wife and I, we when our kids, as they've been growing up, we kind of journal. We try to journal a little bit of their life for them because we believe that, you know, God created us to be something, right?
Yeah.
And then the enemy, you know, like comes into our world and tries to do all he can to distract us from that, to make us feel like that's not really us, give us this imposter syndrome, whatever it may be, and puts people in our lives, friends, you know, the people that are close to us as kids, and they start saying things, reacting to certain situations or whatever we may do in a way that kind of shapes our perspective of ourselves. And most of the time, that's driving us completely away from who we were intended to be. So my wife and I we don't do it as well as we intend to, but trying to kind of journal different parts of their life as children.
Yeah.
Before the world has had an opportunity to come in here and taint them. And it's like, oh, wow. Now I find these adults that are working for us, that we have the honor and the privilege and opportunity to partner with. It's like, all right, you can see how the world has filled them full of doubt, insecurity.
They feel like they're that boy behind the curtain.
Man. And this is where it gets me. So this is where it starts like getting heart depth for me. One of my missions is to help you discover who you are, the true, authentic self, and help you have confidence that you can figure it out, that you can accomplish these things. And you can't just say, hey, you're doing a good job. You have to be very specific with who they are and know them. And so, you know, inside of our world, it's like, how do we create this remarkable? I think it starts with my team, or it starts with me having some sort of vision. But my vision, you know, I don't really have I do have revenue goals and things I want the business to do. Like, you know, we cover all of Georgia. We're licensed in Tennessee and Alabama. And most people think we're just in Watkinsville, really. You know, but we're trying to kind of create different little, we want to have satellite offices and stuff. Right now, we do work out of Watkinsville, but we cover all of Georgia. And it's like, I do have these goals for the business, but I don't get as excited about the goals for the business as I do about your goals for you. And if I can help inspire somebody on my team to kind of inspire them for their own life, their own perspective of their life and what is possible, and start removing some of the scales, in a sense, that the world has just like covered them with, and, you know, help them realize that they're not just a tool here.
Yeah.
And once we start kind of inspiring them with a vision, because I realize that when people come to work, they're looking to like provide for the family. They hope there's not too much drama, but they expect all this stress. Like, no. They're going to spend 6 to 10 hours a day with me, depending on the day, or with their coworkers.
Yeah.
And how I lead them, the influence that the coworkers have on them, weighs heavily on the man or the woman, the mom or the dad, the husband or the wife that they are when they go home, because they've modeled this and they've been infused with something all day. So we've got to create this remarkable culture that when they go home, you know, part of our interview, one of the questions is, you know, if you work with, you know, Steve, you know, or whoever today, at the end of the day, how's he going to go home a better dad because he's been with you?
So I'm curious, how do you do that? Like, how do you create that remarkable experience? Like, what are some tangible skills or tangible things that you do to really build that remarkable experience?
So we talk about hiring for culture. So we find people that care and that encompass our belief system. And then, as I've asked my team this, what is it that creates this remarkable culture in a sense, or the concept of remarkable culture? And each one of them have something a little bit different, but they're all kin, in a sense. They talk about the teamwork some, because they're friends, but if they were to leave this job, they're not going to always be lifelong friends. But they want to know that there's somebody that supports them. So we want to inspire them, but then we want to affirm. And so inside of our culture, there's a lot of affirmation, and it's like calling up the man inside or calling up the woman inside of them, to where there's this ownership. If you make a mistake, you own it, and you don't get condemned for it. You don't get ridiculed for it. Nobody tries to point fingers at you. It's a very supportive and affirming culture. And so I think that having a place that people feel like they're being built up, a place where they can win. Because most people, when was the last time they felt like they won? I mean, maybe if they played high school ball.
Yeah.
Maybe. Since then, they don't get the feeling of winning. So being part of a team where the team affirms who they are and that they are winning, and that, hey, your mistakes don't define you. It's just part of our learning process. And as a culture, we allow you to make mistakes that will cost us money. Now, there's a limit, right? It's like there's something, but
we're not going bankrupt.
No, but you're empowered to make decisions that may cost us tens of thousands of dollars. But without that, I either trust them or I don't. And I've got to equip them and empower them and teach them, and then give them a little more rope. And the longer they've been there, the more they prove themselves, the bigger the risk that we allow them to take. But if I don't trust them with it, they know that. And it's hard to say, hey, I believe in you and I trust you, except for with making financial decisions.
Yeah, you're saying one thing but doing something else.
Yes. And so having the culture that just embodies and backs up and lives out what we preach is huge.
So you've got find the right people, create an environment of teamwork, support, and affirmation that calls up the man or woman inside of the team to really own up to mistakes and build up the people around them. You've got it's a place that feels like they can win, that affirms the team, and a place that feels like they can really grow. They gain responsibility and trust.
Yeah. That's
a framework that you built your remarkable culture around.
Yeah.
There's your secret right there. But it's incredible. It really is. You build this place where not only do you feel like, I know every company says, oh, you're not an employee, you're family, but how do you make that actually mean something? That's what you're doing. You're making someone feel like whatever I do, I am still going to be cared for. I'm still going to be supported by my boss, by my team. Again, there's limits, but that mentality of, okay, well, I can go out on a limb and I can try and do some fun, crazy marketing strategies or do crazy things that are going to help my company. And then also, whether I win or lose, I'm going to be here and be supported by my team. That's vital.
Yeah. You hear a lot about, create a place people don't want to leave. I was like, well, what is that? How do you do that?
Yeah.
And so what I'm seeing and the feedback I'm getting from the team is, so a little bit of context. So we do asbestos, mold, demolition. Nobody that works with me has any prior experience doing what we do at all. Because the ones that have all experience have all the drama. It may not be necessarily true, but it seems to be true. And so we bring people in to this, and what I find is they don't mind it. They kind of endure the nasty because there's a camaraderie built in the suck, in a sense, in the hard struggle. As long as the guy beside you is with you and he's going to stand up, he's going to be there, You don't have to look for where is he. He's right there. And to create a place that people don't want to leave, they got to want to come to it. So in the morning, like, what are we doing? Like, inspire them with some sort of vision of not just where we're going, but where you're going and how this makes a difference to you. Because I want people to dream for their life.
Well, and the power behind that too. I mean, you talked about the industry that you're in usually supplies either less educated or people who are not going to college or going straight into the workforce. And there's a tendency for those people to feel really unsupported and really they get the really sucky jobs.
Yeah.
But then you have this really great opportunity to help them grow, care for them, and show them, hey, I mean, there's value in every field. I mean, you might not go on to be a doctor, but you can still have a really good experience at the place you work.
Yeah.
And you are valued and cared for here. You might find a doctor who's actually in a really, really, really crappy hospital who just really does not enjoy his job because he's not supported.
Yeah, and now I also have we do have a group, like our leadership team.
Mm-hmm.
They're not actually putting the respirators and stuff on. Our workforce is, but having that leadership team internally that believes in the vision of not necessarily just where we're going, but who we are, and they take that and they march it out to the customers, and we have all kinds of little incentives and rewards because you got to celebrate. Well, I'll think about like inspiring, affirming, and then celebrating, right, for these people. How do you keep them from wanting to leave?
Yeah.
Like, get it so rich to where there's nothing that they want to avoid. If my team goes home at the end of the day stressed out, I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's not allowed. Like, you can't go home stressed out at the end of the day. How do you not get stressed out during the day? Like, my stress level on a scale of 10 should be a 12. And now on a bad day, it's a 1.5.
Wow.
Like, but I want that for my team. How do we have moments of, tension during the day, but not allow it to
overwhelm us?
Yeah, man, how do you do that? And it becomes that you got to have that supportive team that's all going towards something together. They affirm each other and then celebrate it. So we give, bonuses for 5-star reviews. So 5-star reviews are hard to get.
Yeah.
Not because you can't serve at a 5-star level, but they'll promise you, hey, we're going to give you a 5-star review.
Subjective.
Well, but then they just don't do it.
Yeah.
They're just like, yeah, I mean to do it.
I've sent you 10 emails. Why haven't you left me a review?
They're busy. They get distracted, and so they don't do it. So we give everybody in the company gets a $50 bill if we get a 5-star review.
Oh, wow.
So they push for it. But when I ask them about it, it's like, what is it about it? The $50 is nice, but they're like, it's not the $50. It's we send out a big group mass text. Hey, here's the the latest 5-star review. Here's what they said. If you get your name mentioned, you get an extra $25.
Ooh.
Because what we're doing is we're trying to incentivize and reward service. Because what we're finding on the 5-star review thing is people don't just give you 5-star reviews because you did a good job. They do it. They're more apt to give you a 5-star review if you create something remarkable and you know their name and they know your name and you create a friendship and it's not just a transaction anymore.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So what is the big picture for Branch Environmental? What is the mark you hope to leave on the community?
Yeah. So our tagline is we believe everybody should live in a healthy home. That's kind of what we're pushing. So it's the mold and asbestos cleanup, indoor air quality type stuff. We do that because we serve well in it and it's a niche. It's a niche market. But what we really try to do is enrich the lives of those we serve and those we serve with. And our mark is like every day, we're like, hey guys, how can we serve the socks off these people? Like our customers. How can we give them an absolute wow experience? And in order to do that, I've got to have a wow team. I've got to give my wow team a wow experience. Like I've got to give them something that they feel is remarkable. And then they take that and then they take it to the community. And so I work on my message to my team. And my team creates a message to the community. And the mark that we really hope to make is with the different lives inside of the business. Mm-hmm. I want the impact that Branch Environmental has in the lives of its employees to change the legacy of their families.
Yeah.
The way they handle money, the way they lead their children, the way they care inside their community, the way that they serve, because we reward excellence. We reward profitability. We reward serving people. The 5-star review is because as a business owner, I need to scale, right? I want to grow. Well, I can't have my hands on everything. So I follow profitability, and there's a profit sharing each month for people on that. And then there's the 5-star reviews because I want to make sure that people are served. And so we incentivize it. And I firmly believe, because I'm starting to see it in the reviews that we get. Because when we look at the reviews, very seldom do people say anything about the actual work we did. They may mention what it was, but it's how well we served. And it starts with from the time you answer the phone, the director of first impressions, as they call it. Right?
Yeah.
The person that answers the phone all the way through how they do the invoicing. Are they on time? Are they punctual? Never run late, because customers.
I read your reviews. They are incredible. And
Thank
I mean, they all were just very honoring to you and your company, of saying, like, I mean, they're punctual, they're on time, they are very, very, very polite to me and my family, and they did great work. So kind of jumping forward a little bit more, we've talked about your vision and mission. How has Branch Environmental made its remarkable?
I don't know we've made our remarkable yet.
So what mark do you want to leave, or what is your...
We're working towards that. So with this whole new perspective shift of being the brand, it's given me a freedom, because I was trying to run from it, from the whole asbestos mold thing. Like, I wanted to do something else. I was going to teach leadership and do all these things. I've got all this other little stuff going on, and I didn't know who I was. I had lost who I was. I was like, am I this, am I that? And it's like, well, what do you do? Well, like, what time of day are you talking about? And when I got behind this whole, you are the brand, then I get to infuse my DNA into everything I touch, whether it's real estate or mastermind or mold cleaning. And so whatever message it is that I'm carrying, and it really is, it's about changing the lives of people, because if it changes business, that's fantastic, because we want to make sure that we want to give people a perspective of business where they're not being cheated or feel like somebody's out to take advantage of them, but a place where they feel safe and secure. And if you do business with them, they're going to take care of you. Like,
right.
When we're there, that's when you go on vacation. We're going to take care of your house.
Like, they don't have to worry about specifically wording something so they don't get scammed.
No, you don't have to worry about,
Exactly.
no, don't worry about all that. I mean, people do what they do, but it's like, no way.
They
We
don't
want,
have to.
no, our reputation, the level that we serve, it cannot have gaps in it. Got to be consistent. So as I asked my team, like, what's something, they're like, the consistency of the values is huge for them. It's not like they don't shift every day. We stand firm, but who we are, that's who we are. We don't change it. And that consistency and driving that home is what's beginning to leave the mark. Because although my values have always kind of been the values, I didn't know how to march them out in business. I march them out in business like I do at home.
Yeah.
Because either we're consistent and we're congruent all the way across in all aspects of our life, or we're not, and it's a lie. So it's like, here's who we are. Here's who we're going to be to you, and here's how you're going to be to the customer. And the people that don't align with it, well, they're just not part of our team. And so the way we were making our remarkable is just, it's one person at a time. It's like, stop, because I'm a hurry up guy.
Yeah.
That's why I'm glad I have people that they'll slow down, they'll be patient, they'll sit down and they'll talk to people and just become their friend. They'll listen to them, and then they'll clean their mold.
Right.
Because people need connection.
Like we were talking about earlier, you hire to your weaknesses, because you noticed, hey, that's my strong suit is I can get this done. I can make sure that this job goes by well. I can make sure that it's done well, and I can make sure it's done by the end of the day or whatever. Yeah. But, where I'm lacking in making that connection and staying there to really further that connection. And I want to make sure that someone else can do that. Yeah. It's like that opposite attracts mentality. Like, you have a good company because you have different people with different personalities who are able to appeal to the other people around the community that don't have the same personality as you.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason we do the 5-star review bonus, is because I want to incentivize them, and not only incentivize them, but reward them and give them permission to slow down for a minute to be present. Because if they want to get that 5-star review, especially if they want to get the extra 25 for their name, they have got to have made some sort of personal impact, because you're working on the house and all that. But for you to remember my name, you remember the guy, who came and fixed your washing machine. Well, I don't know. you know, what was his name? He's some guy from that place.
Let me check my email again.
Yeah, but if you're going to make that mark, you've got to make that impression. It's like this. He's got to put himself into you a little bit, make you feel valued, affirm who you are as a homeowner, as a dad, whatever context of the conversation is at the time. And if we can do that, that makes the mark. And hopefully, when we leave your house, your perspective of business is different. Your perspective of humanity is different. Maybe your conversation with the wife is a little better. Maybe you're a little more encouraging to your son this afternoon. Whatever it is, because if we don't make an impact like that, we've missed it, because mold and asbestos, I hate to say it like this, that's not a big deal for us. It's not like a driver.
Yeah.
That is our platform to serve.
Well, it's something that it's like your foundation, kind of what we talked about earlier. Like your foundation is cleaning mold and asbestos, but you have a whole house to build on top of that. So you've got your team, and making sure that your team is they're equipped to handle the mold and asbestos, but also that they are caring and that they want to go and encourage another teammate, but then they're also able and willing to go sit down and have that time with people. Yeah. It's like building a house. So like the house is the company, and then the decor is like, all right, how can I make sure that they are equipped? Do I offer education, or how do I make sure that they are fun to sit down with, or they are comforting for people who are really struggling with the mold and asbestos in their home? How can they sit down with that family and reassure them that we're going to do a good job, but also make sure that they know that they're being taken care of? Yeah. It's that beautiful picture that you have to build, but it's like kind of hard because you're building it as a company. You are, and it's you know, I know without a doubt that if I went to my team today and I was like, hey, no more mold, no more asbestos, we're starting a restaurant, I know 100% what my brand would look like. I know how they would handle it. And they don't care about the work we do. No, they don't care what type of work it is. They are so ingrained in why we're doing what we're doing and how the level of service. They get excited. They don't get excited about the work we're doing. They get excited about their opportunity to serve today. And that makes them feel good. And they don't want to leave that. It's the best tool I have found for retaining, is giving them a purpose, a way that they can serve others and feel good about it and be rewarded for their service to others. That has been the absolute number one most motivating factor. Bigger than profit sharing, bigger than bonuses. It's just that whole, they not only did a good job, but they served well. And the team recognizing it, customers recognizing it. So yeah, so we're making our remarkable right now. We haven't left that impression big enough yet. It's been very small. I've been playing small for the last several years. And now it's like, okay, we have something here very special. And now we've got to take it bigger. Because if we don't serve that customer, somebody else is going to underserve that customer. Not on our watch. It's like, you know what I mean? That's like our battle cry. It's like, yeah. Like, we're not going to have that happen. We got to serve them so somebody else doesn't underserve them. That's our opportunity to step into their life and make that change, because everybody is dealing with some kind of junk, you know, whether it's marital or something with the kids or their health. And if we come in and we add stress to their life, no way, man. That's not who we are. Well, and that is your mark right there. Yeah. You're building it. It's like you haven't left it, but it's being built, that you're not going to underserve them, that you're going to overserve them. You're going to be there with them. Overserve isn't the right word. You're going to be there and support them, and take care of them. And that really is something that's going to be shared. That's that mark that people are going to be like, wow, they really took care of me. Yeah. And the last person that did my house, they overcharged me, and they didn't even get rid of all of the asbestos. Yeah. And now I had to call this person who, what if they do the same thing? And then you show up and you're like, no, we're actually going to really take care of you. Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about make you remarkable, and we've said it a couple times, but what does that term actually mean to you? When you first heard that, what were the initial thoughts? Making my remarkable started off kind of sounding a little bit about me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to wrap my mind around it. You know, I was like, how do we do this? But my remarkable is gauged by how somebody else feels when I leave. If they say what you did, they may not remember what you said or what you did, but they remember how you made them feel. Yeah. And so for me to create that remarkable, it's like, how are we making people feel?
And that's really the kind of the goal, and that's how we make our remarkable.
Yeah,
It really is. It's finally about serving others. And as cliche as that sounds, and sometimes it really is, like it takes a lot for somebody selfish like me to really turn it around and be like, okay, the pleasure and joy that comes from serving others, and even giving when you don't expect anything in return, the unconditional service, loving them, meaning you just want the best for them,
yeah,
with nothing in return. Now, as a business, we got to make money, but the one-on-one connection, give to them without expecting anything in return. And if we love like that, they will give us, what we have seen is they will give us tons of certificates of appreciation, cash, and that funds our business.
yeah. And it's really, I mean, listening to how you've talked about your business and even talk about the culture within your business is really inspiring, because, I mean, a lot of people come with a similar mindset when they go into building a business of like, all right, I'm building a business to make money. That is the only thing I'm going to be doing. Yes, I need a team, but I can find someone who can do the job just great, and it'll work. The reality is that only gets you so far.
Yeah.
And then, like what happened to you, you get to that point where you're like, wow, I can't go any further. This is my limit. Now my team doesn't support me. I don't feel like I'm supporting my team. I have the money that I need, but now I have clients that are both mad and happy, and I don't really know how to deal with that. It really is all about building a culture within your team and building that good foundation that then allows you to build a good company on top of that really takes care of people. It's a company that can really host people and really take care, like bring them in, and even build a good team that can really help you take care of the people within your community.
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again for joining us today, and really, I mean, telling us more about your company and how you've made your remarkable culture. I mean, we've learned incredible insights on how to really build a good brand and a good culture within your team. Everyone, make sure you like and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app, and be sure to follow us on social media at Oconee State Bank for more information.